Thank you all so much for joining us for our webinar today. We'll be going over understanding your finances. So a big question that a lot of business owners have. So I'm Hannah Curtis. I'm with the North Metro Small Business Development Center. And we will be recording this session and sending out the recording as well as some of the resources that we'll go over later today or tomorrow, depending on how quickly that video uploads. So you will have access to all of the resources. And we also have the chat feature. So if you have questions throughout today's session, feel free to put those in the chat and we will either get to those throughout the session or we'll have some time at the end to do some Q&A as well. And we are joined today by Karen Patel. She's a financial consultant and a fantastic resource. So we're really happy to have her on the call with us today to be sharing the information. So Karen, I will turn it over to you if you want to give any intro, and I can start sharing the presentation whenever you want.
Yes, so I do want to say my world is about numbers, not technology. So the part of the delay was I was going to control the slideshow, but that's not working. So we're going to have Hannah do that. So thanks, Hannah. I want to congratulate everyone for taking this time to breathe, to work on you and your business, because so often, and this is getting to be an ongoing, you should work on the business, not in the business all the time. So I hope I meet everyone's expectations. We're going to have a little bit of a different kind of webinar today. This is not going to be one of those let's lecture and then you're going to learn. This is actually going to be learn, plan, and then we're going to execute, because if we don't execute, then as a business owner, you fail from the get-go. So being an entrepreneur has its rewards, flexibility, but there's also a lot of risks. And so taking the proactive aspect of planning your business really will allow you to take on some of those challenges that you're going to get hit with straight on. So thanks, Hannah, for the introduction. Yes, I've been in the financial industry, let's just say a couple of decades, okay? My entire life, even having some economic development background, I still have always had the financial aspects of getting businesses to grow, to keep their doors open, and how finances in America is what makes the world go around. So if we can, and I'm not really seeing the slides, Hannah, so.
Yep, I have not started sharing yet. Didn't know if you were ready for that.
Oh, yeah. So let's go into our first little lady slide here.
Yeah, 1 second.
Really having a successful business starts really, and this might seem strange, but it starts with your personal financial situation. As much as we want to talk about the business growth or having your successful exit, whether it's a transfer or it's a sale. And since the business really does become a major asset within your personal financial wealth, from the beginning, way to the left.
Yeah, are you seeing?
I'm seeing the notes.
Oh, you're seeing the notes.
There we go.
Okay, now you're not seeing the notes.
Yep, I'm not. Is anybody else seeing my notes? Go back to slide. Yep, there we go.
All right, thank you.
The real starting point, and this first 20 minutes, just kind of take it in.
Right.
It might not be what you're expecting. Get there, trust me. So being that your business is one of your major assets, you really need to understand where that fits in and how your decisions for your business come about because of your personal priorities, your personal goals. Let's go to the next one. This was kind of the poll that Hannah already shared about you wondering, you know, what are some of these things that within your business, people become entrepreneurs for different reasons. And many of the clients that I've talked to, maybe they hate their current boss, or it could be they want to control their own destiny with their income. And so, and of course, my favorite, and generally with most people, is how can I pay less taxes? So it comes down to, with your business, your money that you make either goes in your pocket or it goes in the government pocket. Oh, speaking of, real quick, something that just popped up. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about have financial, legal, tax implications. My compliance people want to make sure that I say that I am not giving any sort of tax advice or anything else. You really should consult your own tax and legal professional. Okay, that's in the recording. I'm good. So many of the things that, yep, now I got thrown off. So are we going back to see the main screen? Maybe I'm still in share mode.
You are not sharing, Karen. I can move along if you're ready for the next slide.
Okay, yes, let's do that. Okay. One of the things that with planning for your business, for you, we know life is constantly changing. Never more than now have we really felt the impact of inflation. In the past, people, you know, you talk about it, but you never really look at it. You know, the cost of goods sold of things that you are buying, that is something you have to manage within your own cash flow. And so I don't think I need to talk too much about inflation because we're really living this, but you will, from a personal standpoint, as you age, some of your general expenses, your food, if you have kids, you're not going to be paying for all of that anymore. But at the same time, you might travel more. Your health expenses are going to be more. So looking again at your personal needs, how is just inflation impacting you? Next, we're going to look at how taxes. Hannah, next, there we go.
There's just a little delay, so.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks. Sorry, guys. I hate being the person when technology doesn't work. So taxes is the other thing as a business owner. I already said, your money that you've worked hard for either goes in your pocket or it goes into the government pocket. You'll see with this slide about halfway through the highest Kelly green dot, and you'll see the largest decrease. That's when President Ronald Reagan came into play, and we had a whole different economic environment than where we are today. You'll also notice not only will taxes change, and you try to plan for them. When President Trump took office in January of 17, things also happened quite quickly. And as you're doing your taxes recently on a personal basis, you will have known. But the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, Congress passed December 22nd no, this hand, December 22nd, and it already was implemented effective January 1st in a couple of days. Those tax changes, that time frame did not allow you to make a lot of changes or adjustments on your strategies. You had the standard deduction doubled, SALT came into play, which is state and local real estate taxes, your limitation at $10,000. And then of course, QBI, which is your qualified business income for some of you business owners that might have had dealing with that. So taxes is something else that is constantly changing, and it's something to be aware of, even though in this case with jobs cut and the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, only within days the tax code changed, and it continues to change. Love your CPA, send chocolates, send them often. Can we go to the next one here? This is where, oh, sorry, go back. Here's your other poll on taxes. Can you back up one, Hannah? Now's your other poll. There we go. Apparently only, I think, 2 of you in the last poll even were worried about taxes. Do we have any results? Yep. I knew you guys were smart. Let me tell you, government cannot continue to spend money out of the air and expect things to be normal. Heck yeah, taxes are going to go up. So now let's go to the next slide. And Hannah, can you put in the chat the resource guide that is available to everyone to have as their parting gift and to be able to fill in?
Yes, it's I'm up. Oh, yep. Not wanting to upload.
No, it looks like it should be there.
Oh, okay, great.
In your chat is a resource guide that we're not going to share with anybody. This is your opportunity to take some notes, think about what's important to you, what are your priorities for your business, what it is that you want to do. So if you go over to page, I think 4, this is where I don't have the resource guide. I need 3 screens, I guess. If you can download that, it's fillable. I don't want to click on it because then I might whack something out. It should be on page 5 of your guide. And it's listing these sorts of considerations for you to look at. Obviously, who wants to be in business if you're not profitable, right? You need to manage cash flow. Some of you might have some personal guarantees already with some of your lending positions that you have. Just overseeing your operations. I mean, can you really do it all? And then of course there's human resources, depending on the size of your company. Again, with all the regulations and rules that are out there, sometimes it's just better to hire that out. Employee benefits. How do you manage in this day and age? You're just trying to find bodies, let alone quality bodies. And with the great resignation out there, people are looking for more fulfilling sorts of things than just that paycheck. Though the paycheck is important, but it is definitely something that they're looking for. The other thing with employee benefits that's coming about that some of you might not be aware of is there's state mandated programs coming down the pike. Colorado just passed their April 1st, their rules. They're going to be doing a pilot program. And if you have 5 or more employees and do not offer a retirement plan, guess what? The government will have one for you. Can be a good thing, maybe not. This is where you need to see what's better for you. We can talk about that more if somebody's got some questions. Technology, I've already talked about the challenges of you know, what with your website and your social media, whatever you might have. Don't forget government regulations. And then of course you have to be competitive. And this isn't just with the business down the street. This is, you know, worldwide from an internet, if you sell your product across there. So the question on the 5 full-time employees, no, it is 5 names, 5 different social security numbers. So if it's you and 4 part-time people, guess what? You win. That's the magic 5. I can talk about some of that later on as well. So keep those questions that you might have about that. And then of course, risk. You as an entrepreneur are, whether you want to or not, are in the business of risk, but you work hard for what you have and you have assets you need to protect, whether it's the income, it's yourself. What if you get hurt and you can't show up and you do 8 out of these 10 different areas? Can you hire someone else to take over? Where does that cash flow come from in order to still keep the doors open? There's things called business overhead insurance that can help pay staff, pay utilities, pay the rent, things like that. So these are some of the financial considerations that are there. Does anybody else have some challenges that we haven't listed that you are currently facing? No? Or maybe we can talk about it more, but the biggest thing is the world is in a constant change, and to gain your financial security with this business that you have in managing all of these risks, at the end of the day, it's the value of your business, that asset you have, is really going to have your impact on your personal lifestyle. And so knowing the value of your business today, maybe you're only in business 6 months, maybe somebody's in business 5 years, but constantly knowing the value of your business is critical, because that's the price tag that you will have the value to either transfer to your children or to get a check and sell to somebody. And based on that value, there might be things that you need to constantly be changing with some of these considerations that you currently face as a business owner. So let's move on to the next one, Hannah.
And real quick, Karen, there was a question about the type of overhead insurance that you mentioned. Could you expand a little on that?
Sure. It's called business overhead. So think of all of those expenses you have to run your business: rent, salary, utilities, whatever sort of payments you might have. You can purchase insurance that if you, the business owner, are not able to work in your business for some reason, 80%, and there's all sorts of numbers in there, 80%, 60%, because you are the one that is running the ship, bringing in the revenue for your business. You can get insurance to provide cash flow for your business to still pay those bills. Often dentists, somebody who, let's say you're an engineer and you're a PE, and the only thing you can do for your contracts is you have to have someone with that same certification of a PE, or I'm trying to think of some other service where it is your certifications, your license, you're a chef. Anyway, we can always talk offline if that helps, but just doing an overall review, and it is something that I do free for my clients, to just look at what your business risk levels are at, from a liability, from your own personal disability, and we pretty much compare where we find gaps. Maybe you're overinsured. Whoever wants to be overinsured. Maybe you're underinsured. But it depends how you're structured, where your cash flow is. And again, I'm happy to talk with anybody offline on some more specific things. We only have a half hour left, so hopefully that kind of answers a little bit of some questions. Depends on what industry you're in.
Great, thanks, Karen.
When you, as a business owner, decided to start your business, hopefully you took some time, and if not, on page 6 of your resource guide, there is a whole section on your personal objectives. What are you trying to do for yourself? What do you want for your family? What do you want for your business? What does it look like? In 5 years, do you want to start another company? Or do you want to start doing more traveling? What about maybe one of your goals is depending on your age, I don't even have grandkids, my kids are in their 20s, but maybe part of your business legacy is that you want to be able to provide college education for your grandkids. We're talking big picture, thinking about going back from when I started this is about planning. What do you want to do with your business? Why are you in business? Knowing that the world constantly changes with inflation, with taxes, and all the other financial considerations. But in there, the other thing is, for your business, who's going to run your business in the future? Or do you think your business is going to be 5 years and you're going to close up shop, and the only reason you're in business is to provide an income or to get away from a boss? I don't know. How many employees do you have today? What's your gross revenue of your business? Where do you want to go? Do you want to open up 2 more locations? What are your objectives? You really need to sit and think about these subjective and soft ideas. And I know it's really hard because every day you wake up, an employee doesn't show up, there's inventory that's missing, a shipment that's late. Those are the things you've got to deal with. But on a monthly basis, you have to stop, smell the coffee, figure out what are your priorities, what are your objectives, what is it that you want to do. So if we jump to the other thing is, let's go to the next one on goals. Nope, go back one. So in your resource guide, page 7, also has something regarding your goals. You have your objectives, but again, this isn't something probably you were expecting us to talk about, but a good planner will force you and will provide advice and recommendations. And this includes your CPA. CPAs and accounting, everything is in the past, right? It's historical. What was your revenue? What was your expenses? What's your profit? This is what you write your check for. A good CPA will be strategic and work with your other advisors and be looking forward. If you're starting to make too much money, where can you reduce your profit to put more money in your pocket, right? Increase your expenses. Maybe it is a retirement plan. Maybe you need to fund that more. Maybe you need to buy new equipment so your value of your business is higher so you can sell it at a higher price tag. You got to be looking future down the road. If what does your business look like if you're not involved? And I know some of you might have started this business not thinking long-term, big picture, but again, on a day-to-day basis, and I'm not going to start singing Kumbaya or anything, but what is life for? What Hannah, I see you're chuckling. You know, why are you doing this? Why are you putting yourself and your family at risk? Get some benefit. Let's make sure you are helping yourself, your family, your business in the long run. So I know you didn't think that we weren't going to talk about numbers at all, but we will. But does anybody have any quick questions? I know, Hannah, if you've got it, it was retirement, the mandated program, business overhead. Were there any other questions that popped up for me to answer late in a bit?
No, we haven't really had any other questions come in. So if you do have those, feel free to put those in. There was a question more on logistics about how people can get connected. You can find all of our business advisors on our website at northmetrospdc.com. So you can go there and schedule appointments if you'd like to talk with a business advisor one-on-one.
And I'm also happy, my contact info is on these slides, and I'm happy to chat with anyone as well and schedule some time. So, all right, let's get out of the fluffy, subjective, soft. Maybe some of you women or men want to talk numbers. So let's do that. Let's get into the objective, concrete numbers. This is where we're at. The one thing I will share, and one of the reasons that I'm in this business, is over the last 50 years, 40, a long time, I know the stress level it puts on some people because they just don't like numbers, they don't get it, they don't understand it. That's okay. You are running your business because you know what you know for your business. That's why there's professional advisors out there. You don't know everything legal. You hire an attorney. You don't know everything financial. You hire a planner or an accountant or a CPA or an insurance agent. Those other professionals are there for that reason. So I'm not going to do too heavy on numbers, but I want you to see, if you want your business to grow and continue to increase in value and provide an income, this is where, as you expand and grow, when your banker wants to know what is your strength as a business owner, this is where they're going to look at your personal net worth. Now, it's your assets, it's your liabilities, and what's left over is actually what your net worth is, right? So in that case, let's go to the next slide. whatever liquid assets you have. Fixed assets are going to be hard, tangible, chairs, machinery, real estate, if you own the building. And of course, your liabilities will either be short-term liabilities. Short-term liabilities are those that you will have to pay within 1 year's time frame. Long-term is everything past the 1 year time frame. So if you have a 5-year loan, your short-term liability equates to the payments you need to pay in the next 12 months. The additional 4 years that is after that will be your long-term liabilities. On the business side, your bankers have ratios and they look, if your cash flow is only $10,000 in this year, and you have 1 year short-term liabilities owed of 18,000, you're going to be short and have a negative ratio, right? Because you owe more money this year than what you're able to pay. So let's go into, let me just, here. So if you haven't started your personal net worth, you can Google a financial statement, fill in the blanks. Actually, there's not a fillable for the income statement, but there is for your expenses. On actually page 9 there is, and then page 11 and 12 in your guide, that you should be able to look at that. But what are your current expenses personally? How long are these expenses? Are you paying for one of your kids in college and those are gone in 2 years? Okay, once that expense is gone, that's going to increase your net worth, which will help you as the business owner when you need to get funding from outside. One of the things I will mention real quick, if you are a 20% owner or more of a company, guess what? You get to sign on that dotted line and you get to guarantee that debt of that company. One of the things on your personal net worth also, and this is part of the joy and the benefit of being self-employed, having your own business, where depending what your CPA says, but how many of your personal expenses might the business be actually paying? And that's great today, paying for your cell phone. You might put a wrap on your car, so that's marketing. You can write off all the car expenses, things like that. But as you're continuing to look at the business value down the road, all those expenses that the company is paying, that's going to go away because you won't own that company anymore. And now if you still have those expenses, how are you going to pay for those? And again, that's where look at the implications of running those expenses through your business and really having a good idea what's going to continue to occur in the future. And then when you reforecast and you take out those expenses that really are paying for your personal needs, you also will get a better idea of the true profitability of the company. So there's ways that you as a business owner need to know what are the real financial statements of the cash flow of the business today, and what is that going to also look like in the future. If we can go on to the next slide. Has everybody found on page 11 and 12 for you to look at your own personal income and expenses You got to start looking at your own. If you personally are spending your more discretionary money on, let's just call it stuff, that's going to put more strain when for some reason the business cash flow isn't able to support you, or isn't, you can pay yourself your salary, but you're not going to be able to take out that extra distribution that you need to because cash flow is not there. And the biggest part that I want to mention is on a personal side, you've got a budget, you have a spending plan, right? But as you develop that and you track it, you are going to see that your projections are based on cash flow. The word profit isn't going to make a heck of a difference, except when you file taxes in March or April, if you're a sole proprietor. Cash flow is what it's all about. You either have more income coming in, more revenue coming in, or you have more expenses or less expenses. And it's that net cash flow that's going to allow you to invest into future business growth, or you're going to have to make some hard decisions. The other thing is, with your cash flow, what sort of expenses that you have might be irregular, or for instance, you buy a new truck every 5 years. So you don't need you don't have that outlay of cash today, but you know in 5 years, it's just not going to last and you're going to have to buy another truck. Or it might be on the personal side, one of your priorities, you want to be able to help out, like I said, with your grandchildren's education. You want to have some of those expenses figured in, looking at the future. But cash flow is definitely to start training yourself instead of just looking at profit. The biggest mistake that companies who are growing, that grow too fast, it's because it's exciting to take on a new contract, to take on some new customers, depending on the terms. But if you don't have the cash flow to buy your inventory up front, that you, in order to make your widget, or write code that you have to do up front in order to then sell it to gain new clients, where are you going to get that cash flow? It's either yourself, and I had presented another webinar of 6 different areas you can find money. It's yourself, family, friends, maybe your suppliers. Maybe you need to start strategically talking with your suppliers about getting your terms extended, not COD. Maybe instead of net 15, 30 days, maybe they'll give you net 30 days and 60 days before you need to pay in full. So there's, or you get to go to your local finance institution, of which you may or may not qualify. But that's where the SBA sometimes can come into play to help with those guarantees of what's needed. So again, cash flow is the name of the game. Profit is what happens at the end of the year, and then you get to put money in your pocket or you give it to the government. So I think everybody knows where, be a good citizen, pay what you need to, but there's a lot of tax rules, especially with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, where you can have, if you had a PPP, there's the employee retention credits, and there's a lot of things that can help you to reduce your tax liability, but you need a professional who stays on top of that and knows what's going on. Let's go to the next slide, if we can. So part of your financial projections, you need to know what's there. Some of you might have it in an Excel spreadsheet. Some might be using Waze, some might be using QuickBooks, but you need to be able to look at your finances holistically in both personally and from a business standpoint. And so doesn't matter to me, but for you strategically, really needing to know, what do your numbers look like? If you go to page in your resource guide, page 13 and 14, I think, should have some samples where your planners, your accountants, whatever. Let's go to the next slide that I think will show some of what the software. Go one more page. I thought it was in the presentation. Nope, go back. It must just be in the resource guide that shows your, let me see how I can pull this up. Sorry. Resource guide. Here we go. Now I can do this, 2 screens. So if you look on page 9, that's kind of your sample of a net worth statement. If you notice, the very last, well, next to real estate is business interest for Mark and Millie sample, right? So that's where your equity in your company or the value of your business will show up on your personal financial statement. And then there's the liabilities, homes. Hopefully you don't have a lot of credit cards, mortgages, or whatever it is, but that's your personal financial statement on page 9. Going through 10, 11, 12, work on your expenses. Your distribution example on page 13 in your resource guide, that again is your cash flow. What do you have? What happens when that salary, in this example, Mark's salary goes away because he's retiring, or God forbid he gets disabled, or he just walks away from the company because Mark and Millie got divorced. Looking at your cash flows. These are things, again, from a planning perspective that we all take into account. And if it's not the cash flow, then it's the cash flow coming from your portfolio assets. Here on page 14 and 16, 14 and 15 are where some of the software samples of just visually, it helps you look. You can see when the salary goes away and here comes retirement and building up retirement assets in addition to paying yourself a salary. But what else are you going to, or in some cases, when we're dealing with succession planning, where does that check come from? And that then becomes your retirement asset. So really the last part here is going through this process. I might have challenged some of you, thought that this was just going to be talking ratios and numbers. It's not. That's just a portion of what you need to do as a business owner. It really is looking at all of the things you want to do, your objectives, your priorities. It's that soft side. You need to continually look at, constantly make changes, calibrate every year, whether it's pick a date, October, that might be too late. Larger companies, they start doing their budgeting for the next year in June and July. Smaller companies, October. Do not wait until December 28th to say, oh, what sort of changes do I need to make? Assuming you have a calendar year fiscal that, you're going to try to reach your financial planner, your CPA, your attorney on December 28th to implement some of these strategies. Not going to happen. Again, this is just, Business University is something that I participate in. This is chapter 1 of an 11 chapter process where we focus on the business. There's 3 to 4 chapters. We focus just on employees as far as employee contracts, retirement benefits. Then the other 3-4 chapters, we focus just on the business owner and educate you on your succession planning and how is it you're going to transfer the wealth of your business, either to the employees, to your children, or to an outside third party. I'm going to stop here, Hannah, to take on some more questions. Again, if somebody is missing that resource guide, it's the PDF is in the chat that Hannah put in there. That is yours to keep, make notes, challenge yourself, question yourself. Why the heck am I a business owner? What do I want to get out of my business? Hopefully you have a little bit better understanding from chapter 1. And Hannah and I talked whether we will offer some of the additional chapters based on demand, based on need. Happy to do that.
Great, thank you, Karen. Yeah, this is really helpful content. So we do have a few minutes remaining. If anyone has questions, you are welcome to put them into the chat, or you can just go ahead and come off mute and ask Karen while we have her here. And I will also mention, I know we briefly touched on it earlier, but this can feel overwhelming when there are, so many moving pieces to it, but we do really encourage through the Small Business Development Center that you would take advantage of our one-on-one business consulting. These webinar sessions are a great time to get the general content and education and an overview. But in those one-on-one sessions with an advisor, you can really drill down deeper into your specific situation. And they're your long-term partners, so you can keep working with them as your business grows and changes. So that's always just a plug we want to put out there. And we do have a few questions. Samantha asked, she says she's thinking of starting a business. She's writing her business plan. Her question is, what input or charts, etc., should she ask her CPA to provide for this business plan?
So as much as you need to send chocolates, send them often. Your CPA or any professional is here to guide you, but it's based on your needs, what you want. The biggest thing, I would say 2 things. And when I've consulted with business owners who are starting out, there's 2 foundational aspects. You have your legal structure and then your financial accounting structure. Make sure that you are in the proper legal structure based on your product, your service, your ownership, and your long-term goals. Are you looking to sell your business? Is this going to be going on to your kids someday? you know, part of that transferring of wealth. Maybe you give 1% share to each of your kids, just so it's there, what have you. But from an accounting aspect, just document. The person with the most documentation wins, and your business will, your business banker will definitely, you'll find that out when they ask for things. It's the documentation. The business plan on the Colorado resource book is the best way to force yourself to ask questions. What's my product service? Who are my competitors? What's my niche market? What are my projections of what I think I can sell this for? The SBDC has some IBIS reports that can help you with industry information to kind of give you some of that insight. So your accountant generally is going to just make it pretty of whatever you tell them are your revenues, are your expenses, but you can ask them if there's a format in which they prefer, have found the most success, because at the end of the day, you're reporting your numbers and then they have to get it together so you can file your income tax. Unless you're at a point that you are going to be applying for a loan with a bank, then that's when you need to have some good conversation to say, I need to borrow $500,000, $50,000, and this is why. I need it to pay rent, I need it to buy some equipment, and I want to do my website. Hate to tell you, but paying rent is a basic necessity that should come from cash flow. So maybe you don't need to be in a facility to start paying rent unless you have some contracts or you have a good source of revenue to be able to pay that. There's accountants, there's bookkeepers, there's EAs, which are also known as enrolled agents, and CPAs. CPAs can do auditing. In some cases, maybe you don't need a CPA. Maybe you need a really good accountant who understands tax code, or maybe an enrolled agent is really good that can help you with doing some strategic planning. A bookkeeper is just going to put whatever you give them with your payroll numbers and things like that. So hopefully that's helped. The Colorado resource book definitely will help you with the business plan. And we can provide referrals for bookkeepers and CPAs, depending on your industry, things like that.
Great, thank you, Karen. We do have a few more questions. I know we're running up on time here, so just want to address a few of those before some of you jump off. One of them is about your information, Karen. Is it okay if we share your link for appointments or your email, or what do you feel comfortable sharing?
Sure. If you go back to the very first slide,
I can share that. Also, I will be following up with all of you with a follow-up email that has the recording and these resources, and I can include that information there. I think it's going to take too long to do screen share and see that again, but you will have a copy of the presentation. So is that the information you were wanting to share then, Karen, for your contact?
Yeah, or you can go to my website and you can schedule an appointment with me there if this is something outside of more personal financial planning or what have you. The SBDC, I'm listed there as well, but just so everybody knows, I wear my SBDC hat sometimes and other times as a professional. And so need to make sure very clear separation of duties and responsibilities. So I'm very conscientious of that from an integrity aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. There's another quick question about how they can get information on their industry. If you want to set up an appointment with the SBDC or just reach out to me, we can pull an IBIS World Report, which has a lot of great market research. So just reach out to me if that's something that would be helpful to you. There's also a really great resource through the Denver Public Library called the Biz Boost program. And for free, you can meet virtually with a business librarian, and they will pull a ton of data for you on your market. So that's another great resource. So just wanted to get those a few covered. And we want to thank you all so much for coming. If you need to jump off, I understand we are a few minutes past the hour, but Karen, there was one more question if you would be willing to say.
Sure, I'm more than happy to.
Great, thank you. It is a really interesting question. I think it's about growth. The question is, how do you determine when it's the right time to hire more help through that financial lens?
It comes down to cash flow and your need. If you are finding your value of your time is worth $100 an hour, and you are spending time doing administrative work that is not confidential, is not proprietary, and you can hire that out, then it's your decision as a business owner. Doesn't make sense to hire someone at $20 an hour when you could be using your time developing market, developing product, strategizing on how you can enter a new customer target market and expand. So I, of course, coming from the numbers world and the planning world, will say the numbers need to make sense. But it comes back to where I started out with, what are your priorities in life? If you are giving yourself health issues because you're working 18 hours a day, yeah, hire somebody else. Life is too short because when you're that stressed, you're not going to be able to make good decisions. And you need to be focusing on long-term priorities, because you will, if not, you will find your short-term decisions that you are making will be very different than if you do focus on what you're trying to do at the end of the day from a long-term perspective. Really ask yourself, are you, what are your plans? I often ask people, are you here just to give yourself a paycheck for the next 5 years and then you'll figure out plan B, or you're gonna move to take care of your elderly parents? Or is this something that you have the best product or service and you want to not just do it regionally, you want to set up some more locations in the West Coast, the East Coast, you want to franchise, you want, I mean, what do you want your business to look like? And so some of those decisions from a financial aspect need to make sense. And it might be that you do get a line of credit for cash flow purposes, to take on that extra expense, knowing you then will be able to get more business, and that revenue that comes in will pay for that. There's different ways to manage borrowing money, short-term, long-term, lines of credit. You know, there's different ways. A lot of times people will start out and just borrow on their credit cards. You know, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do in order to start. A lot of times I talk to people, they want to just take all their money out of retirement to start the business. That really is kind of scary. That retirement money is for when you no longer have a paycheck, and that becomes your paycheck. So depends on you. Long answer. Happy to talk more about your personal situation if you'd like, or other consultants can also, go through what your options are.
Great.
Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Karen. So those were really great questions. And like I said, I'll be following up with all the resources and information we talked about, and ways that you can further connect with Karen or with the other SBDC consultants. So thank you all so much for joining us and for hanging in there past the hour with us. And thank you so much, Karen, for putting all this content together for us and presenting it and being the experts in this matter. So really appreciate everyone's time.
Absolutely. Would love some feedback. If there's a desire to have some more in-depth sorts of webinars on things, like I said, basic different avenues of business structure, employee benefits, just what have you, let Hannah know. There's a feedback form, Hannah, that goes out somewhere?
You'll get an automated request for a survey, but I'll also include that as part of my follow-up email. So if it's easier to just reply directly to the email, feel free to do that. I don't think that's a question necessarily in that automated form, is why I say that.
Okay, and I have a official feedback form too, if that makes it easier. Really want to be here to help all the business owners in the region.
Yes, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much, and thank you, Karen, and we hope you all have a great afternoon.
All right, thanks everybody.
Okay.